Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome and thanks for joining us. You tuned into another episode of Old Terps podcast brought to you by the good folks at New Amendment. Hell of a weekend for me. I'll just say that right there. I did a hell of a lot. My body is feeling it right now. Shout out Matt Menny.
Jersey's looking slim.
Yeah. Jersey's a little tight. Matt Menny, though, shout out that guy. He's a huge podcast listener. One of my best friends from Indy. When he comes into town, things just get ridiculous. So that's where I'm at. I'm not feeling good. You can probably hear it in my voice. My Wi-Fi's lacking a little bit. Everything's just a little slow on my end. So fired up. Anyway, my voice, Andrew Terrell. Everybody else can get their voice in there so that you know who's who.
We're just giving shout-outs now. Is that what we're doing? Shout-outs to start the show. Shout-out to the Terps.
Big ones.
2 wins this week.
Unbelievable.
Big wins. Big home win. And we had a little red bottom again here in Minnesota. That was a spank.
Yeah. That's one of those where it's just a spank, dude. Send them on their freaking way. But yeah.
We've had a lot of success. I mean, Minnesota, by the way, that's one of my favorite gyms in the Big Ten. The Barn, that place, it's like it vibrates. The locker room is like in the dungeon. You run up the stairs to get to the court. The court is raised. It's a different experience than all the other gyms, so I appreciate it. But man, we've won a lot of games in that building, especially as of late.
It's funny you say that because for the guys on the bench, it's the worst. It's the worst court in arena because you got to climb up that fuck. I mean, I'm doing 15 to 20 squats to get up and down the raised court. I can't stand that place, and it's cold. But it is nice. Like, it's the Barn. It is exactly what you would picture. It's kind of older, more historic. You come out of the tunnel through the stairs. But from a bench guy's perspective,
it's cool. It's unique.
It's horrible. I was going to bring out.
It's almost like the Final Four. It's almost like the Final Four preview, though. Like, you're sitting below the floor. The coach gets a stool on the court. You kind of think you're doing something, except you're like, oh, I'm in
you're whooping them by
Minnesota,
30 week in, week out. Yeah. And you leave, whatever it's called, Williams Arena, and as a bench guy, you feel like you just played a football game.
But the gym's so old. They have banners from like 1930s in there. I mean, you're looking up there. You got World War II going on. These guys were winning Big Ten championships. I don't know if they won one since, but they won it back then.
Bro, they have had some pretty unlucky teams, I guess I'll put it, for lack of better terms, but they have not been very good for the past couple of years, and we kind of showed, hey, you guys still suck. Any light that you thought you had maybe at the end of the tunnel, we're just gonna, it's gonna be a red light because we're gonna spank you till you can't see.
Not to like beat a dead horse, you gotta think like where are they recruiting? Like how many guys are really coming out of the state of Minnesota? I guess it's just like any other place. You got to win in order to become popular to get recruits. But it's like in a situation like right now, what's like the sales pitch if you're Minnesota and you're trying to go get a guy?
It's that you're in the Big Ten. That's it. And it's really you got to pitch to a guy who's pretty decent. Maybe he's just not the level of Maryland. That hey, you'll start on this team, and you'll get a shot at Maryland. You'll get a shot at Ohio State. You'll get a shot at Michigan State. And just being able to start, but I think from there you just gotta produce guys that maybe you start getting guys that somehow make it to the league.
You literally have to be lucky and
you
just
start
get like the Minnesota guys that aren't quite good enough to go to Duke. Like Tyus and Trey Jones were Minnesota guys. They went to Duke. But like, who are the best guys we played against? Is probably like Amir Coffey. He's Minnesota, I think.
Amir Coffey, like they got
that was his name, right? Oturu. He was a Minnesota guy, I think. Yeah. So like they weren't quite good enough to go bigger, but.
Nate Mason
was great too. I mean, they've had
so they've gotten guys. They definitely have. They've had good teams. Like early Patino, late Tubby.
Mm-hmm.
Like they had a good 5-year run, and then they got a couple transfers. But since then, it's been tough.
Well,
it's been tough.
I'll tell you what. Before we. I just got to say this because I'm looking at myself in the camera right now. This jersey's tight.
You look like you can't breathe.
On me a little bit more than I wanted it to. I'm in a little trouble right here. I wish I had a glass of water. I'm sweating. I feel absolutely horrible right now. So I just want to make sure I get.
Whose jersey is it? Is that yours?
Oh no, that's me all day. A little too.
All right, man, keep that camera up, man.
I feel bad for the people.
I
feel bad for the people at home that just had to see that.
It was uncomfortable,
scan
man.
down.
It was uncomfortable.
I got a little bit of
everybody at home.
Yeah, you did.
All right, so Drew got his jersey on though. Hey, there was a story. Me and Drew got checked in and Trav into one game because Drew's wearing his jersey's tight. I mean tight, and Drew could lift. I mean, what'd you bench? You benched 300 over 300.
Yeah, 315.
And then he subs in. The guy next to me goes, "Why are they letting the fullback into the game?"
I remember that,
bro. Oh, I should have knocked his ass out. You should have told me. A real friend would have stuck up for me.
Reese was laughing with him. Reese was laughing with him.
No, I stuck up
This
for you.
guy's telling me 5 years later in a different state. He's scared of the.
No, I told the guy, I said, just don't let him shoot.
Yeah,
that.
no.
You can say what you want, just don't let him
He's
shoot.
got a little bit of a clip. Well, I'll tell you what. It's I'm man enough to admit this, and I'm also humble enough to admit this. I did not have this gray long sleeve shirt under it when I was in the lobby to check into this podcast space. And I turned my camera off and I said, okay, we got to do something about that. This is getting ridiculous. People at home, I'm not even sure they'd finish the YouTube video if we're sitting there and they're looking at, not only am I a little pale, I mean, it's winter, but
a little. If we're gonna dive in, can we dive into that nickname, please? If we're talking nicknames here, we're on the topic of Mr. Andrew Terrell. His college nickname given by was it given by Bino?
No, it was given by Warren. Bino's not smart enough to give a nickname.
It was given by Warren. Andrew's college nickname was Chalky. It's Chalky because he was so white.
That's not
Open
true.
interpretation.
It's because I would screw around in the weight room with the chalk. I'd be putting handprints.
It was a dual. It was a dual.
Never seen anybody
the weight
use that
room
much
just
chalk in the
happened
weight
to
room.
also fit the bill.
Here's my
everybody in the world with the chalk, including, unfortunately, myself while I was benching.
Our whole team would be walking around the weight room with handprints on their asses just from the chalk that Andrew was touching. And it was obviously all on purpose. He would go over to the little chalk, stand in the corner. He would just lather up his hands and just walk around the weight room and just
it wasn't funny.
Smack everybody in the ass.
It wasn't funny at all.
Bro, it was so funny.
If you were somebody coming mid-lift and you just walk down and saw.
And this is while you're trying to squat, you have 325 on the bar and you're serious. You're kind of locked in, mentally. You grab. You're on a rack, whatever. You put the bar down. You just get you get spanked with chalk, and it.
No, see, I wasn't a spanker. I was the guy that was putting the prints on there perfectly for us, so that you could see it, further down the road. I wanted people coming in the locker room saying, "Why's that guy got a left and right hand on his left and right cheek?" It's ridiculous. That's where I'm
strictly for vibes. You provided the vibes.
Okay, glad that we just snuck into that, but let's go ahead and hit the X's and O's. Maryland at home versus IU. Beat the shit out of them. I mean, it was a close game into the half, and then we just kind of took it and we put it to that distance where it's, anywhere from 7 to 14, pretty much the entire second half. And as an away team, I've always found really, really tough to put together some type of run on the road, especially 7 to 14. So, we did our job. We did what we needed to do. Hey, what'd you guys think of Willard's comments about Trace? That was, I'm all about, smacking ass and things like that.
Yes.
That was a bit much for me. Bit much.
I was going to bring it up. More dominant than Zach Edey? There's no way. We looked at it.
What was
last night.
What did he fully say? Let's lay the context here. What did he say?
He said right now Trace Jackson Davis is the best player in college basketball. Nobody can figure him out. I still haven't been able to figure him out. And he's more dominant at this moment than Zach Edey. I said, Coach Willard, you're either playing with him, which I hope you're not, or you're just
a mind game. It had to be a mind game. We had this conversation last week. Zach Edey is the most dominant big man in college basketball since I haven't seen him with my own two eyes personally. Kevin, I haven't seen.
Kevin's not buying it. I don't get it. I don't get this.
Dude, Kevin is
18 last night? No,
dude.
He must have.
It's because Kevin is Mr. Like, if he doesn't translate to the NBA.
This guy's been in the NBA 3 years, 4 years.
Dude.
Now.
Okay, my whole argument, and I'm not a Zach Edey hater. I mean, the guy put up 33 and 18 on IU at IU yesterday. So I'm very aware that the guy is dominating. Guys like him don't win. Like, teams with just like one massive like just center on their team, they don't win at the level
name who you
other
were talking about. Name the people you were talking about.
Jared Sullinger, Greg Oden. I said we're better college big men than Zach Edey. And I said Zach Edey is he's another Isaac Haas. He's another Taco Fall, like these massive, just big centers that play in college basketball. People figure him out. People figure him out. It happens every single year. It'll happen again this year.
That dude doesn't miss jump hooks.
We're talking about dominant.
He doesn't miss jump hooks.
Not
Payton
better.
has it figured
He's more
out. When the guts of the game is on the line. They come down. They run the little handoff. They get it to him in the post. Either give up a jump hook or a wide open three. Pick your poison.
Yeah.
We had talked about if you're going to start to build a team right now, that you said, like, I'm going to build this team to win the national championship, I'm taking as my center Trace Jackson-Davis over Zach Edey. I'm sorry.
Well, I think it's a system thing.
And my team is going to beat your team.
Kevin has a point there. It's a system thing, and I think Purdue fits the perfect system. But with dominance, it's Zach Edey. If you take Zach Edey off of Purdue,
50 in the country.
They are not good.
But
they're not even top half of the Big Ten.
But the way they have to play with him on the court, they become one-dimensional. They're Zach Edey or die.
Right.
That's the way their team is built, is to feature a guy like Zach Edey, where if he doesn't have it, they're going to lose. You saw against Maryland. Maryland was pretty effective in guarding him. Maryland kept the game close at their place. You're going to say Purdue's the number one team in the country. They got one of the best home crowds. They got the most dominant guy in college basketball. They limited him for the most part and stayed in the game, had opportunities to win if they could hit a three down the stretch. Like, there's other guys that I'm just saying that are centers in college basketball that I think if you're going to win and beat the best teams in the country, history has shown people like Zach Edey lose those games. It was my whole argument. So, yeah, I'm taking a Greg Oden. I'm taking a Jared Sullinger. For this year right now, I'm taking Trace Jackson-Davis.
Yeah, no,
just because his versatility and what he does on the court.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with you. Like, at Purdue, like, Edey only had 24 and 16. Like, you know, I agree with you. Yeah, he sucked.
The thing he is right about.
Kevin, you're so brainwashed, it fucking hurts.
It's a different game.
You've seen other guys. Stats are not the true teller of the whole game. Especially when, as you talk about, Purdue runs every single play down the court. Zach Edey gets a touch every single time down the court. For him to get 24 and 16, he's 7'2".
7'4".
He can stand in the center of the paint and he's going to play 34, 36 minutes a game, stand in the center of the paint, being the biggest guy on the court. He better go get 10 rebounds. If they're going to run every play for him, he's going to touch the ball on the post every time down the court. He better go get you 15. So his stats are going to be inflated just because of his usage.
But if you put Trace on Purdue,
the point that is a good point is that, like, it is a guards game. It's
stink.
2023. It is a guards game. So there are guys that maybe fit that mold better.
Sure.
But like the fact that we're even having this conversation is like evidence of how kind of special that guy is.
Kevin's right, though. Like, we think of Illinois when they had Kofi, and it's like Kofi was dominant, but those guys would never win. But it's a guards game. But I still think Zach Edey is much more dominant than Trace.
I'm not saying they're going to win the national championship because of Zach Edey. I mean, if they did, it would be because of Zach Edey. But I don't disagree with that point. I'm just talking straight up dominance. Like, who would you rather have? Who won the national championship last year? Kansas, and they had who was their best player? I forget. Christian Braun,
the guard, Abaji. Yeah, exactly.
Ochai Abaji.
Okay, so then the year previous, typically your best player is not a big, so I don't disagree with that. But in just straight up dominance, there's no way you can deny Zach Edey's not the most dominant player in the country and demands the most attention because you just said it, highest usage rate maybe in the game.
But I think if you have a guy on your team that's 7'3", he's going to be dominant. Boban in the NBA, you put Boban plays 10 minutes a game. He goes in the game, he dominates for his 10 minutes, but he's not a guy you play over the whole course of a whole game. Yao Ming never won at a high level. Taco Fall has never won at a high level. Like, all these guys are Kofis. Like, they're dominant while they're in the game because they're the biggest guy in the court. and you have to double them. They stand in the paint. They're immovable objects. Isaac Haas dominated the Big Ten for as long as he did. Yeah, those guys are going to be dominant. They're the biggest. They're the biggest guy in the court. They take up 3 people.
He's more dominant.
He's a better player.
Dominant.
He doesn't miss. He doesn't.
Yeah, that's what we're arguing.
Yeah, like
he can be a better player than him. We'll go back. The whole argument is I'm defending Willard's point is, and it seemed like Willard would be on the same page as myself in terms of if you were starting a team or to play in the Big Ten, and you're building a team that was built to last and built to win at a high level.
I get the Trace Jackson Davis over 80. If you have guards who can, boogie off the dribble, you have guys who can shoot. Like Purdue's built around Zach Edey. If you have a different mold, a different team composition, like Trace Jackson, he might be a better fit. Like yesterday, they were coming down off ball screen, just throwing Calvin Johnson bombs to the rim. He was going up over the top, grabbing it and dunking the ball. It was special. I get that point.
Well, he wouldn't. Trace could play in the SEC really easily, and he'd dominate in the SEC. Zach Edey could not play in the SEC. At least I don't think. You know what I'm saying? Like, just because it's so much more up and down, it's not a big man's league. So I see what you're saying, but what I'm just talking pure dominance. I mean, he just is he's.
I got a question.
Anyway,
I got a question.
IU.
Think about the IU game for us versus IU. To me, there was one thing. Like there was one reason I think that we won the game. It was something defensively. We've talked about it before. I want to know what you guys think. What I'm talking about. I want to see if we're on the same page. What is the one reason we won the game defensively? Thank you.
Quarter court, the press.
It was everything.
Well, it's dude,
great.
when you press and you make them start their offense so late for big men, it's just tougher. And then we did a really good job doubling. We doubled at the right angle. Like a lot of teams don't double correctly, where like they don't force him to the double. Like Willard instilled to these guys, hey, get on his right shoulder. The double's going to come from the backside, and just sit there. You don't have to reach. You don't have to do any of that type of stuff. I mean, and he still got his, but it helped limit everything else that he could do. And then we scored at a decent clip in the first half, and we're able to get into the press and slow them down.
Well, Andrew, I love what you said. I mean, we were texting about it during the game, just saying like how suffocating our defense was, how we loved their ball pressure. And you said like if you're playing at home with the crowd that Maryland was playing in front of, like it just compresses the court. Like the court just feels small. Maryland just with their ball pressure, their aggressiveness, their double teams. I mean, IU couldn't score the ball. Granted, they didn't shoot it well, but like Maryland, I was watching the game like this defense.
Part of why I think they didn't shoot the ball, especially the guards, is because like they were uncomfortable all game. Like Jalen Hood-Schifino is like a great player. He's probably gonna be a pro at some point. He was 1 for 14, I think, because he was uncomfortable. He had pressure from the tip, the jump ball to the end of the game. Like, yeah. He's.
I also.
Here's the thing.
Good.
Here's the thing. If you start any season, the first thing any coach is going to tell you is we're going to play fast and we're going to pressure the ball. And so every coach, like their defensive philosophy is we got to make them feel us. We got to make them feel us in terms of other teams. We have to make them uncomfortable. We have to dictate what they're doing. You can comfortably say, Maryland, no matter what, other teams are going to feel us defensively. We score the ball, we pick you up full court. Like right away, 35-second shot clock, 30-second shot clock, like we're in your shit right from the start. We're in your shit in the half court. We're going to come W in the post. That's exact like we were talking about. They were effective against Zach Edey. I love that about this team that we've talked about at times, like their offensive struggles. Yeah. But defensively, we're so aggressive that it makes up for it. And it's a fun brand of basketball to watch. He rotates guys in and out. The guys that come off the bench do the same thing. We score the ball, and it's like everybody knows right away we're into our press. We're picking up the ball full court.
Dude, we do a pretty good job of not
nobody else in the Big Ten does
too.
that. Like, if you look at the Big Ten, nobody else in the league presses like that. Like, Iowa runs that 1-3-1 sometimes. Purdue will have the point guard pick up full court. Nobody else is running like a get up in your shit 94 feet all game long in that league except for us. So it's like something different when you come to Maryland. It's like, oh shit, like we have to be ready to handle the pressure because we're not going to see this the rest of the year.
If you watch basketball between the conferences, it's like Big Ten is probably known to be boring. It's the bigs. You watch Wisconsin, they do the same things every year. They don't really press. They take the time, get good possessions. You watch SEC, they're putting up threes. They're playing a little more wild. Same thing with ACC. But you see Maryland is kind of bringing their own flavor right now to the Big Ten. And it's different, and it's something you have to game plan for differently. And it's hard to game plan for. It's hard to put your scout team members out there and go do Maryland's 1-2-2. Go do Maryland's full court trap. It's like, we're not going to mimic what Maryland does. It's hard to do.
And it, like,
if we're you go, Andrew. If I was gonna say, if we were pressing full court in practice, who's bringing the ball up? You three.
Dude, you guys remember when I threw the air pass and it hit the bottom of the scoreboard?
Turgeon was like, what the hell?
And Turgeon said, okay, go grab water and we're done for the day. Dude, I had no conscience when it came to turnovers in practice. So I was like, fuck it, I'll just do anything. I threw a pass, tried to throw a full court pass to beat the press. It slipped at the top, and I literally hit the Jumbotron that was 100 feet in the sky. And Turgeon literally said, everybody go grab water. And he like tapped me on the ass and he was like, I want you to fake an injury and hit the locker room because you're done.
I remember there was a time we were working on a 1-3-1, like a soft press. And it was similar. Like if you're going against the press and you're on offense, like the opposite, like a long pass across court is always going to be open. And so we were trying to work on it, and it was one of those things like Turgeon wanted you guys just to like play the game. Like, hey, throw the ball in, reverse sides of the court. I want to see like our press move. Like it's a soft press. We're just trying to take time off the clock. And Andrew, who's just like right away, like I know how to beat this press. Right away, he'd catch the ball and bounce. He's telling like Josh Tomich to go long, and he's just throwing like a dart, 3/4 court pass to the opposite 3-point line. And it was like 3 times in a row that you just made one pass to beat our press. And I remember Turd just like literally looking at you like, Jesus Christ, Andrew, can you just reverse sides of the court? And he was like, Coach, I'm beating the press easy. This press sucks. Like, what do we do? Like, what are we doing? I'm making one pass.
And then you got shitty after the fact because Turgeon was like, Andrew, just play like reverse it back and forth, like play how they would play the normal game. And you was all like, fuck all that.
Dude, I hated that shit. I hated like there were little times here and there that you guys would run some shitty little dinky press, or your 2-3 zone sucked, or you guys couldn't beat our 2-3 zone. Dude, and they would legitimately sit there and be like, just go easy on. I'm like, who the hell does that help? I was like, fuck that. We're scoring every time, and Turgeon's yelling at me and shit. I'm like, dude, if I'm out here getting buckets, we're fucked. Because I suck.
Yeah.
Like, talk about having your fullback beat the press single-handedly. Are you kidding me?
It was a fine line. That was with like every drill there was a fine line for you guys where it was like, okay, you wanted to make us work, and you wanted us to like, we wanted to work on things, but like if we sucked, you needed to exploit it. And it was like, if we were doing a drill and one of you just like went one-on-one and scored it, he was like, God damn, like pass the ball, we're working on stuff. It was like, okay, if we make 4 passes and then you go one-on-one, it's okay.
There was, dude, Drew, that was the tough part of being a walk-on though, is when we made shots, it was a legitimate bad thing. Like people were
on the road at like Chase Center. Like, we were playing like an NBA game.
It was terrible.
Like playoffs, and we was knocking shots down, and all the coaches were like, boo.
Well, that was the thing. He's like, okay, 3 stops in a row, and we're done with this drill. So it's like, you guys better not make one. You guys better not make one shot. I swear to God.
Bro, you remember
one year we started cooking so much.
The whole season.
They put a bubble on the rim during shell.
Yeah.
There was like a week straight where it was like they would play. You guys play great defense. We do a step back 3 at the buzzer, swish. And then we get like an and one. And then all of a sudden, next week we come into practice, they're doing shell. The managers are running up with the ladder, putting a bubble on top of the rim. So every time we shot it, it can't go in.
Bro,
and then we get a...
Bro, do you guys remember when we were running motion offense, when we were doing the drill where if we made a turnover, a ball was getting put away, and if all the balls got put away, we had to run?
Yeah.
Do you remember exactly what I'm about to talk about, Kevin?
Yeah. Yes.
They were running motion offense where you hit the big at the elbow, and I mean I knew it was coming, and I sprinted through, and it was the easiest steal of my life for a wide open layup. And I remember I got to half court and it hit me. I was like, oh my God, I forgot we were doing that drill. And I like slowed down all the way just to, I wanted to give myself a second to hopefully have the team not pissed off. I turned around and Kevin looked at me and he just goes, what the fuck are you doing? Like, are you an idiot? Like, why would you do that? Are you the dumbest guy on the floor? And I just said, I apologize to everybody. I was like, I'm so sorry, guys. That
was also like full context. One of the few times Melo actually got mad at you. Because the people out there, like, we were turning the ball over way too much that year. So we would get into practice and there'd be 10 balls on the rack. And Terge was basically like, if we go through all these balls for this practice, we're getting on the line. Like, in every single turnover is like, he'd take a ball, he'd kick it to the corner and grab a new ball off the rack. And so, of course, we're scrimmaging and we're sitting there whispering to each other, like, we're not stealing the ball. Do not pressure me. Do not get in passing lanes. Like, everybody just be solid, make it look good. We're all on the same team here. Let's all figure out what we're doing. And then you had the practice heroes. And then you had the guys who, were trying to get some tick, trying to increase their playing time.
Just trying to push.
Just trying to, guys playing a little too hard. And Melo Trimble, Melo Trimble was very just even keeled. Melo never showed too much emotion. He kind of like his care level was always just kind of like, he showed up, he did his thing, but that was, Melo was very even. He got that when Andrew stole that ball that day, it was just like the look he gave him, I'd never seen Melo give anyone in my life.
It was awkward. I felt uncomfortable. He's my roommate. He was sick. He was sick to his stomach. I was sick to my stomach. I was, because like he said, Kevin just made that comment of like the practice heroes. Like nobody further from a practice hero than me. Like I did not do drills. I didn't get on the floor. I didn't take charges. I was the guy that, I was drinking water on the sideline 90% of the practice. And if the Gatorade to water percentage was a little off, I was making the managers run because, that's the only part of the practice I liked.
There's one more
I was
story.
not a practice here.
Y'all making me think of this. We were getting ready to play Michigan State, and everybody knows how fast Michigan State likes to play. So there was one time we were scrimmaging, and Kev, when the red team scored, like if you guys scored, we didn't have to take the ball out of bounds. Like we could just grab and go. And I promise you, there was one time you guys scored, Andrew grabbed the ball. He didn't dribble. He just picked the ball up. It started running. Up the court. And somebody was like, whoa, that's a travel. And it turned just like, nah, let him go. He was like, let him go.
Yeah, Terge did not care.
I put it under my arm and started running like a fullback.
He was Derrick Henry running down the court.
I just went and shot a layup.
And Terge loved it. He loved it. He's like, that's how fast they're going to play.
That's Tum right there. That's Tum.
Well, that just goes to show.
That was so much fun.
It just goes to show. It was like every drill that Terge would come up with, Andrew had to beat it somehow. It was like, how can I beat? It wasn't even like he didn't cheat it, but it was like, how can I just beat this drill? Where it was like, Terge was like, okay, Andrew, just like, we're trying to work on. Let's just run the play. Can we just run the play, please?
Oh, dude. Turgeon saw me at my best and my worst. He was the man. Fuck. He was so much fun to screw with. It's like in the locker room when he was eating food and I came out of the shit. Just kidding. Okay, listen to these stats. Though. This is crazy. So let's dive into this real quick. IU Maryland at Maryland. Field goal percentage, 35% for IU, 34% for Maryland. 3-point percentage, 27% for IU, 22% for us. How crazy is that? I mean, dude, we were worse shooting in every area except for one area, and that was free throws. And guess what? We're at home. We're going to get a couple extra calls because the crowd's with us. But, I mean, that just kind of goes to show you that our defense, works wonders, and we don't foul. We slow people down, and it helps. They had 12 turnovers to our 5. So it was,
Don't look now, fellas. Things. Yeah, no, it's crazy.
Kind of crazy, though, right?
The home thing is crazy. And then last night, we finally kind of like took the lid off the rim on the road, got things going. Don't look now. Please don't. We're tied for third in the Big Ten. Like, it's getting like...
Yeah.
We got things going. We're like right in the hunt for a double bye. I think we're back like safely in the tournament conversation. We were like on the bubble a little bit. But I think we're safely in. Like, we're kind of pushing up towards that like top quartet of the league, like things get a little spooky here range. You know what I'm
saying? I completely agree. So really, really fast. Just to go over real fast, we beat the living hell out of Minnesota. And two things that I loved seeing with it that leads us directly into the tournament play. We talked about it. January and February, that's where you want to start start going a little bit. You want to start riding a momentum wave. First time in Maryland's history when they've been in the Big Ten that they won 5 straight games. Kevin and I were talking about that earlier today. That's pretty crazy. We never won 5 straight Big Ten games. Kevin and I looked at each other and we were like, did we suck? Like, were we a bad team back then? Because that's a wild stat. And then secondly, biggest road win, it was either in Big Ten history, period, or it was biggest road conference win in Maryland's history. Also impressive.
Yes.
But guess what? It's February, and we're starting to trend super quickly in the right trajectory to March. And, that's the only time that you care about being great.
Well, the great thing that we're seeing, and I'll go back to the IU game, we're finding ways to win when we're not shooting it well. And the biggest difference in that game, you look at the stat sheet that tells the story, is free throw line. We shot 29 free throws in that game. They were fouled a little bit more. We got that home court whistle. But that was really the difference in the game, even when we weren't shooting it well. And I know they didn't either. But another thing from that game, I just want to shout out because he deserves it. Dante Scott down the stretch, making big plays. Didn't shoot it well either. You could tell he started to hesitate a little on his 3 later in the game, but he was just relentless trying to get to the rim, get in the paint, make plays. And those are kind of things that you would expect from him, especially as we're getting down the stretch here late in the Big Ten season. We have an opportunity at home to close out a really good team, a ranked team. And he just made big plays, just got to his spots, had big buckets first down the stretch where all we've talked about really is making big plays, Jameer Young. And for this game, a big one at home, it was really Dante for the most part.
Well, and it kind of goes to show you, like we say it all the time, Kevin, you say it the most probably just because I feel like it's very NBA, is like get to your spot. You just get to your spot, good things will happen. Like, don't go outside your comfort zone. Sit there, get to your spot, and let things come to you a little bit. And that's exactly what Dante did, and that's what Jameer's been doing the entire year. Also, you know who else is doing it, is Julian Reese. And now he's starting to – dude, if he starts firing – you look at this team, and now you could probably say right now we are, I think, locked into making the tournament.
As long as we don't shit the bed.
If we take care of business where we take care of business at home. Exactly. And, right now, I think we're right around a 6 to 7
looking.
seed.
I just actually
maybe an
pulled it
8.
up. Mike DeCourcy, Fox Guide, Bracketology. I think it's on Friday. He has us right now, and I'm actually a little bit surprised. We are at 10 in his last projection. 10 playing Auburn in the first round. Texas is the 2 in the South region. That surprised me a little bit. I think just Big Ten, like your schedule is going to be tough. You're playing so many quad 1 games. Like I think that we'd be a little bit higher than that. It's a tough range.
Dude, it's also there's a thing about the Big Ten right now too, because of last year. I think we had 10 teams last year, and nobody played well. I think everybody was bounced by the end of the first weekend, or maybe Michigan. I think they made the Sweet 16, but it's one of those things. I think the Big Ten has a little bit of a bullseye on them. Like, hey, we give these guys a ton of respect, and they beat each other and beat on each other all year. But, we haven't proved that we're that good. When's the last time we won a national championship? I think it was Izzo in 2000? Or no, it was Maryland in 2002. Yeah.
It was Maryland, and they weren't even in the conference. They were in the ACC at the time.
So, I think that's why we get some of these.
You know why? If you watch a Big Ten basketball game, and then you watch, like I was watching Kansas State versus Texas last night, and I'm thinking like, I don't know who in the Big Ten is beating either one of those teams. Like the way it's a different brand of basketball, it's a different style of basketball. It's just you can watch and you can kind of see why we don't have success in March. The way the Big Ten plays, it needs to change. Like we're lacking athleticism, we're lacking pace, we're lacking tempo, we're lacking kind of just shot making. You know what I'm saying? Like it's all very like systematic, slow, grind out wins type of basketball. And you look in these other conferences, the Big 12 guys are just hooping. Like they're just playing.
SEC.
And you can tell like when it gets into the guts of a game in March, who's going to win? The guys who all year have just been like hooping.
But the top 3 teams in the conference is Purdue, Rutgers, and Iowa. Yeah. If I had to choose games to watch, I am not turning on Iowa. I'm not turning on Rutgers. But in terms, I'd rather watch the Kansas States, and those type of games. But I think how it can change, I think Maryland's going to change it. I mean, not even just because we went there and we're fans. Maryland's fun to watch.
Dude,
they've been fun. Like we said, the press, they fire things up. Coach Willard, he's fired up. I think those other coaches you watch them, they're calm, composed, pretty boring like their teams. But I think it's fun. It's fun for us. Maryland's fun to watch. I think Big Ten's just so disciplined. It's such a big game that doesn't win you championships.
Yeah, I think we're going to start seeing a lot of change too with NIL in that front, where it'll be really tough. It's tough to get the athletes from the South. I mean, like, the South produces better athletes. Football, that's just the way it is. Alabama's going to have better athletes typically year in, year out than the Purdue's and things like that. But when you start looking at Maryland and starting to recruit in the DMV area, then we're going to start getting then you have to adjust, because I think once we get away from the big man league, which I think we're starting to trend in that direction a little bit, and we'll have to. I think I agree with you, Reese. I think Maryland will be the group that starts changing the complexion of where you get talent, who stays, who goes, stars.
I think it's funny, as we talked about these super conferences and how there's been a lot of change up in the last couple of years, and there's going to continue to be change up. Like, for me, the Big 12 is the best conference, and it's really not close. I know the SEC's got some people in it, but like the Big 10, we got teams joining the Big 10. We got every school trying to join the SEC. The Pac-12 might get weaker. The Big 12's got no money. No one ever watched those games. Like, the Big 12 has 6-7 teams that are tough.
They could win
6-7 teams. I think if they came over to the Big 10, would be 1 or 2 or 3 in the Big 10. So just kind of ironic how things like that shape out. Because, I mean, last night I was watching Iowa State. They played and they beat the brakes off of Kansas at home. And you're just watching the game, you're like, man, if Kansas just beat the brakes off of Kansas State at home, and like if Kansas came over to the Big 10, like maybe the only team that could beat them is Purdue. Just because of Zach Edey. But it's funny. Like the Big 12 is. I don't want to see any of those teams in the tournament. I'll tell you that.
This is my hot take. February 5th, 2023. Travis Valmon. I think the Big 12 is getting 2 in the Final Four. Like I think that league is that good. If you think like Baylor, Texas, Kansas State, Kansas, Iowa State. I'm sure I'm missing somebody. TCU. I think they'll get. I wouldn't be surprised to see them get 2 in the Final Four. Like, that league is just deep.
Dude, could you imagine, like, Travis, you and I talk about this almost like weekly or daily at this point. Baylor, those guards, bro, if Baylor was in the Big 10 with those guards, like, I'm sorry, but they are running through our conference. Like, Jameer Young is one of the best guards in the Big 10, period. Probably one of the best guards in the country as well. There's 3 of them.
He'd be the 4th best guard.
3 Jameer Youngs on Baylor,
and he's like maybe an all first team Big 10 guy. Yeah. He would be the 4th best guard on Baylor's team, and that's no slight to him at all. We know how good he is, but that's how good. And they're what, 4th in that league? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Maybe even worse because they started out so slow. So I agree. I think the style of play. I think the referees need to get better. I think the block charge call is getting out of control, and I think it's the worst in the Big 10. I watch a ton of basketball. I think it's the worst in the Big 10, period. So I think the refs need to change a little bit, too, because our play style and the way that they call games, it doesn't translate into the tournament. So, I think there's a ton of fronts that need to be adjusted. And, yeah, that's what I got. Anybody else got anything?
The ACC sucks.
The ACC sucks.
Y'all know
like
who's 1 and 2?
That Duke UNC game yesterday?
Dude, they
Clemson
suck.
And Pitt. That's bad.
What do you guys... I was thinking about this over the weekend. What do you guys think about... like, Maryland having Duke as a huge rival? Like, because I was thinking, who's Maryland's rival? Like, it's rivalry.
I think...
Like, what do you guys think about that?
I think that, like, when I was a kid, I've been a Maryland fan since 03. Yeah. My dad grew up, he's a track coach. Grew up on a program. Like, when I was growing up, Duke was like everything, like arch, utter nemesis. We hated those guys. I heard some nasty, vile things said at Xfinity Center out those guys. I think, like you guys are saying, like, we're so far removed from that at this point that, like, it's just not the same. And I don't like who is our rival. If like you had to ask, who is our rival?
Who do we get as a rival? Like, you can't create a rivalry. A rivalry is 100 years. You know,
it's not Michigan.
I mean, you don't want it to
Penn
be
State basketball. Penn State doesn't get. Yeah, I mean, Penn State football wise, they're our daddy. Basketball wise, no one cares enough at Penn State for us to have a rival. So like Penn State,
not really Virginia.
Really isn't.
Dude, we don't have a rival. It's kind of the Penn State basketball is very similar to like that really calm guy that like if you like shit on the really calm guy and he's just like, I don't care. You know what I'm saying? It's like, what does Maryland say to Penn State? Kev, you just said it. Penn State beats the shit out of us in football. We care about football too. But then basketball, they're like,
enjoy.
We don't give a shit. Enjoy. So you can't be a rival with that guy. You know what I mean? Like, you got to have them care too. It's like Purdue IU. They hate each other and everything. I just don't know how we get to that point, and because that would provide a lot more excitement. There's a lead up to it. You know, you prepare for that person every game of every year. It's just, I don't know how we get back to that.
That's why everyone was so up in arms when we came over to the Big Ten.
Yeah.
Our first couple of years there, that was 3-4 years removed from the ACC. I still have people to this day, but mostly people in college that still thought we were in the ACC. They'd ask me like, "Hey, like when you guys play Duke or UNC?" Like, my guy, we got Rutgers next week. I don't know what you're talking about.
Say that out loud.
We're at the rack, man.
I think we're at the rack.
How was Carolina? Oh no, yeah, we were at the rack.
Got Rutgers next.
Yeah, we're at the rack. But I think that's why people were so pissed. You know, the true Maryland fans, because they're just like, all those rivalries that took years and years and years to build, and all the legendary coaches that went against each other, you lose all that. And so now Maryland enters a conference where there's already all these rivalries that are already established. Like, we can hate Michigan State as much as we want. Like, it'll never be a bigger game than Michigan State, Michigan. Just like Purdue, IU. Like, our closest school to us is Rutgers. So it's like, or Penn State, but we just talked about Penn, like Maryland and Rutgers, like what we talked about, I think a couple weeks ago. Nobody's worried about Rutgers, bro. We're going into Rutgers. We're expecting to win that game. And that's not a rivalry.
I don't disagree. I think we need to get one, but I just, how do you find one? I mean, they don't just come to you. They're built over 100 years. So,
Right.
Okay, real fast. Toughest gym in the Big Ten, you think, to win at? Kev?
I didn't play at IU when they had a good crowd. I thought Michigan State was tough to win at.
Reese?
Michigan State, just because I think they're consistent. Michigan State, just because they're consistently better, and it's Tom Izzo, along with the gym. But when you go to IU, I mean, those guys are okay. The gym's insane. The fans are great, but the team's okay. With Michigan State, you're going against Tom Izzo, those guys. And with Michigan State, it was actually during the kids weren't there. It was January. Students weren't there. They filled the student section. It was old people wearing Izzo's own shirts. I'm like, this is nuts. I had an old guy telling me I suck. I'm like, bro, you're 55. You don't even go here. Like, what are you doing?
You don't even go here.
But they love Izzo and the team so much that they sell out. Whether like our student section's weak when the students are gone, but Michigan State somehow fills it with old people. It's insane.
Guess who we got Tuesday? Let's just look ahead real quick. Scouting report. Guess who we got Tuesday?
Yeah, those boys.
Michigan State.
At Michigan State. It's going to be a hell of a game. ESPN 2, 9 p.m. And then following that, we got the kid that doesn't care, Penn State at Maryland. So we've got a massive week ahead of us. We are fired up. Terps are probably the hottest team in the Big Ten at the moment, besides maybe in Indiana or something like that. Big thing I've learned from the weekend, Maryland's only undefeated team at home in the Big Ten right now. So if you're listening to this and you're a Maryland fan, you're a Maryland student, keep firing it to the game. It does make a difference. Like, it 100% makes a difference. So get going, start drinking the Zelco a little bit earlier this upcoming week, and let's fire it up. Michigan State, 9 p.m. on the 7th. Maryland at the Crib on the 11th. We're fired up. We're excited. Anybody got anything on that?
We'll save tune it out. One thing we liked and didn't like. We'll save that for next week. So really, really, really think hard this week about what you guys are liking and not liking, because it's going to be double trouble next week.
Yeah, I got one thing I like, though.
Save it for next week.
Say it. You got it.
No, we'll save it. We'll save it.
No, you got to say it. I love that. Little
Keep the people waiting.
I love it. Just you guys better tune people in. Are going to be tense now the rest of the week. I can't wait for you to. Yeah, you better tune in to hear Reese.
That's nuts.
Oh wow, it was crazy. That. That's crazy. I know exactly what he's talking about too. We're excited.
We're fired up.
All right, that's another episode of Old Terps podcast. We're excited. We're fired up. Tune in next week. We'll go through Michigan State, Penn State, and crush the week. Watch Kevin tonight play at New Orleans. He's going to fire it up.
Shout out to us.
Peace, everybody.
Beyond the Big Ten is a network of podcasts that aims to be your go-to resource for all things Big Ten. We cover the entire conference with shows hosted by ex-players and athletic alumni, aiming to be your go-to source of information and entertainment for your favorite team. Hosted by ex-Big Ten players, media, and insiders, our podcasts are focused on giving diehard fans and those alums an inside scoop about the teams and people that make the Big Ten Conference one of the most watched and most talked about conferences in sports. We're excited to talk Big Ten basketball with you wherever you may be. Subscribe now.